All right,
All
welcome
right.
back to Bit Dodgy In It. I'm a Canadian trying to sound like I'm from Croydon. Saying I'm your host, Jason Hewlett, along with Pete Ratton. How are you, Pete?
Bit dodgy in it. Bit
Bit Dodgy
dodgy
In
in
It?
it.
Bit dodgy, eh?
Where's my moose, eh? Eh?
No dude about it. Anyways, this week we're mixing it up a bit on our show. Last week we kind of talked the Warrens. This week we're actually bringing on an experiencer who has had dealt with paranormal activity. So we're really interested to hear his story. Of course, Pete and I, being longtime paranormal investigators, we want to hear it, give our 2 bits on it. So let's not waste any time and bring Mike Conway onto the show. Pete, if you please. And there he is.
There he is.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic, guys. How are you?
We're doing good. Thanks for coming on. Mike and I have met sort of through our mutual work over at Joe Blow Media in the past. He wrote scripts that I narrated.
hmm
And little did I know that he has a paranormal experience in his history. So we wanted to have him come on and talk about that, which was very cool. Not everyone who
Yeah.
deals with the paranormal wants to talk about it. So this is really great.
That's
Oh,
awesome. I appreciate
they're fun. It's fun stories to tell.
So why don't you start at the beginning, Mike, and just sort of explain, like, when did this happen and how did it happen, and etc. Like, just hit us with the main 5 W's.
Well, like it mainly starts off with most most people who experience this stuff. It started when I was a baby. They say like children can see things that others can't. So I don't really remember some of the things that I did see. My older sister, she's 13 years older than me. She used to babysit me, and the first thing that she noticed is whenever she was babysitting me one time, and she was playing the AC/DC song "Hell's Bells," and all of a sudden the stereo just shuts off, and I look behind her and I start screaming "bloody murder." Uh, and then this is like this is an apartment that we were living in, and late at night she would see someone just kind of sitting in the chair in the living room with my mom was working nights as a nurse, and after we moved out of that apartment we lived into another house. Not so much happened over there, but it wasn't until I was in second grade in 1989 when we moved into this other house more downtown of this small town that I grew up in. It all started with your random doors opening and slamming shut when there's no windows and no draft. The door is completely shut. The only way you could open it is if you turn the knob. And that would happen all throughout the house. Just doors would open and shut. Then the first huge night was when my older sister was living with us, and I have another younger brother. I have a huge family, by the way. And my mom took my little brother and I to Burger King. And when we got home, this was at night, my sister was standing on the front porch with a butcher knife. With her face was white, and we're asked what was wrong. And she said that while she was putting up makeup in the bathroom, someone came up behind her and whispered, "It's too dark."
Wow.
So,
it.
yeah.
Holy.
Uh, so we would get random things like that here and there. We'd hear voices. Like I said before, my mom was a nurse at night, and sometimes it was just me by myself if my sister was off somewhere or my little brother was off with his friends. And one night I'm washing the dishes, and someone comes running up behind me, yells my name, and that freaked me out because I was 12. I called my mom and immediately told her to come home, and she ended up taking me to go see Toy Story to cheer me up.
That's not a bad cheer up.
Yeah, no, no, not at all. And um, another time, my mom was sitting alone in the living room, and there's two ways to get into the living room. There's one that's a one door that leads to the hallway that leads to our bedrooms, and then there's some French doors that lead to the dining room. The the door to the hallway was shut, so she wouldn't wake us up. And one night she heard loud stomping, just slowly creeping, coming up to that door. She grabs one of her little mini statuettes. One was of a Hamlet, and this thing was heavy, and I still have it. She went to go around the corner to sneak up on whoever's there, because obviously you wouldn't want for little kids, because if we're going to wake up late at night, we'd make this little, tap, 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 tap to the bathroom. But this is like a loud man stomp, and she cut on the lights. There was no one there. So we ended up finding out that the person who lived there was an older lady, and she ended up they keep it, I guess, not so light. She ended up blowing her brains out in that house. And to keep us from getting scared, my mom, late at night, when she was laying in bed, she just said, if anyone's in this house, you're welcome to stay here. Just don't make yourself present around my children. We didn't hear anything since then. It wasn't until probably 1995, my brother got this cross from Spencer's. He just thought it was like a normal cross, but it turned out to be a very sacrilegious looking cross with skulls and all kinds of stuff on it. And we're making fun of him. And at this point, my older sister is now married, and she lives across town. So I have another older sister who was visiting there, and an older brother of mine. And we were watching Tales from the Crypt. I remember vividly. I was on the floor, and we told our brother that he needs to take back that cross because it doesn't need to be in the house. So we just put it on the dining room table. As we're watching the show, everything got quiet, and we turned to my sister, and she looks spooked, and she's pointing at the dartboard. Now, we have a dartboard on that door that leads to the hallway. We all look up at the dartboard. It's hanging midair, and just starts swinging like this.
Huh.
We
It's like a
immediately
back
get
and
on the
forth,
couch.
like
Like a
this,
pendulum, like a clock, and it was hanging in the air. It's not like it was on the door; it was hanging in the air. So we all jump on the couch. We don't know what to do. We immediately call our sister to let her know we are on the way. My mom, she was off staying the night out of town at her boyfriend's house, which ended up being her husband. And while they're on the phone, we hear the same loud stomping noise going around the dining room table where that cross was. We hightail it out of the house, and we go stay at my sister's house. That morning, my mom calls us furious because the house is completely torn upside down, and we had just cleaned that house the night before, so we wouldn't get in trouble. And the place was a wreck. So we didn't end up taking that cross back to Spencer's. We ended up just throwing it away in the garbage. And we didn't really hear anything since then, except I did see the dartboard swing again by myself while I was in the living room. We didn't end up staying there much longer after that. My mom ended up getting married, and we moved to this other town in South Carolina. And this house always kind of spooked me a little bit. I mean, it was a rental, and it was brand new. I didn't really get the backstory behind this house, but sometimes late at night, my little brother and I would share a room, and my bed faced the hallway. And I would wake up in the middle of the night, not the sleep paralysis thing. I'm pretty much wide awake, and I would see look like a little teenage boy standing in the hallway with a backwards hat, just kind of staring at me. After that, I switched beds with my brother, so now he would face the hallway. So I didn't want to see that.
Smart.
Now it's about 1998, and this is when I'm going through my little goth stage in my life. I'd wear all black. I had insanely long hair. I would listen to some pretty wild metal music. I was also really huge into Marilyn Manson at the time. So I'm sitting on my brother's bed that's facing the hallway, and this is the one that I can't explain. And it's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and my brother and my stepdad were in the living room watching TV. And I'm listening to, I don't know who I was listening to. It's something metal though. And I look in the hallway and I see a black shadow kind of rise up, and it comes running towards me. It stands this close to me and kind of makes this like breathing looking motion. It shuts off my stereo and my light and kind of disappears down the hallway. And that was the last big thing I've seen until probably 2010. And that's just out here random things walking around my other house. But since then, nothing.
Well, that was like a lifetime supply there.
I know, Jesus.
Years, like wow.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's one of those. I don't know if it's one of those things that just followed me up until I entered high school, and just kind of checked in on me every now and then. There's something I can never explain, but out of my whole family, I'm the only one who's actually witnessed the most stuff from the age of an infant up until adult.
Wow.
Pete, you go.
Yeah. So going back to the original house, with the lady that unfortunately committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Did you establish the characteristics of it being a woman, like with the voice, and was it?
What? Yes, the voice was definitely ladylike. It wasn't. It definitely didn't have a deeper tone of a man. It was definitely more feminine sounding. So that's what made us think that this was the lady who's there doing this with us.
Was there other things as well, like fragrance smells and stuff like that associated, or was it just that?
No, I mean, no one's ever mentioned anything about smells. I don't recall it. It's just more of sights and sounds.
When you were a kid, like an infant, was that in that exact same home where the woman had committed suicide? Mike,
no,
or...
this was an apartment that we lived in.
Okay,
it was a small apartment. My sister probably had some better stories with that one than I do, but one that she did, I do remember her telling me, was when she woke up in the middle of the night to get something from the kitchen, and on the way back from the kitchen, she just saw some lady sitting in the chair, and as she's walking, the face kind of turned towards her, like she was about to look at her, and she just didn't know if she was still half asleep or what. But from the things that I would react to, like looking over her shoulder and seeing something, and with no one else being there. I mean, the same thing happened to my son. He's 10 years old now, but the same thing happened to my son whenever I took him to go see my mom in the house that she was living at. She since passed away, but the house that she was living in, another lady in the downstairs bedroom that we used as the office, she died in that room from a fire. And whenever I took my son there, he was probably about 6 months old. I was just kind of walking around the house holding him, and right when I went to that back room, he froze and started screaming, like looking over. So it's like the same situation. And I'm talking about my son. You probably hear him having a good old time. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can hear that or not. He has a friend over. Tell him to be quiet. But.
I have a child. I know how that goes. Well, so to speak. We all have children. We all understand. It's a zoo. That's interesting. Like that you had it since you're an infant. I know there are some people, like I've had experience since I can remember. And I know, Pete, you growing up, of course, had your experiences. Some of us are just naturally more in tune with whatever is kind of going on around us all the time, right? I think that's a very normal thing. But it's interesting how the places you've been to had quite extreme paranormal. Like that's like Hollywood movie kind of stuff, right? You know, Pete, it's not that's not what we experience on a regular basis here as investigators, even.
Well, I still to this day have nightmares about that house, and I haven't lived in that house since 1997 or 1996. Yeah, excuse me. And so I've constantly have nightmares about the house. I do go to that town every now and then to go visit my sister because she still lives there. It's about an hour and some change away. But I always want to go knock on that door and ask them say, hey, random stranger that I've never met before. I used to live here. Is this house haunted to you, or is it just me?
What do you think, Pete? Like, what's going through your head now? Like, when you're just hearing all this, like,
kind of alluding to what you were talking about as well. Like, obviously, as to what Jason was saying, people have different sensitivity levels to the paranormal, and it sounds like you're very much like a conduit, where you can see a little bit more than what most people can and stuff like that. And when people kind of get that realization, they like to expand on it a little bit more, just to get so they have that ability to either open and shut the door. But then sometimes they take it a little bit further, where they're able to open the door a little bit more and they can't shut it anymore. So it becomes more of a hindrance in their life and stuff like that. But no, it's interesting, and it's what's interesting as well is like the different places you've been to as well, the different characteristics of things that are going on. And it could be just a coincidence that those things happen and stuff like that. And with the introduction to the cross, that could be a haunted object that could add to the pile as well. But yeah, just douse yourself with holy water, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the last thing I actually really did experience, my mom passed away in 2019, at the end of 2019. And last year, I'm sitting in here in this office, and I was playing guitar. And my wife is now a nurse, and she works at night, just like my mom did. And my son was sleeping in his room, and I had set my guitar down, but my amp is still on. And through my amp, I hear a woman's voice call my name out. And this is probably about 11 or so at night, maybe 12. And even though I'm in my office at 12 in the morning playing guitar, I wasn't having anything to drink or anything like that. So I wouldn't like imagine anything. So I heard a woman call my voice. And at first I thought it was my wife trying to reach out to me, because my phone was in the bedroom. And I didn't know she was trying to get on like our Alexa, or we have a dog camera that we can talk to our dogs and feed it treats. So I texted her and asked her if she try to reach out to me. She said no. And I was like, well, I just heard a woman's voice come out of my guitar amp. And the hopeful version in me was I still talk to my mom every now and then. So that's my hopeful thing, is like maybe she was just reaching out to me and let me know she's okay.
yeah. And that those things do happen, right? I mean, I've lost parents. Pete has too. Like, you sometimes just get these little messages or at least things that feel like a message, right? And I find in that situation, I don't know if Pete agrees with me, it's better to trust that gut feeling you have inside of you, to think what that could be. So that was, in my mind, likely could have been the case, right?
Yeah. Sometimes you're better off not knowing the truth.
Yeah. There could be a whole other story going on that you don't want to know about. Mike, this is might be an odd question, but when you were young, anytime, did you ever experience any trauma or anything like that? Like anything bad happened to you? You know what I mean? Like an injury or an accident or anything?
Not at all.
Not at all. Because sometimes trauma can create a relationship with the paranormal. Like, there's a belief that, either it makes you a little more prone to seeing what's going on sometimes. That's why I ask. It's just one of those questions.
I mean, I would hate to think I was dropped as a kid or something like that, but as far as I can tell, I don't think anything major has happened to me, other than your random cuts and bruises that a normal kid would get.
Yeah, which that wouldn't be enough to really cause much of anything. So that's interesting, Mike. I agree with Peter. It sounds like you're just naturally dialed in to this paranormal world.
And I mean, I'm still I'm still wide open to it. There's nothing I, shut off and disbelieve or anything. Not especially with everything I've seen. So, I'm always open to the paranormal. It's something I firmly believe in.
What I'd like to know, because I know you're a horror fan like myself, and so as you can tell, so is Peter there. Do you think these paranormal experiences contributed to you being a horror fan at all? Like, do you think that kind of might open an interest in it? Or because I know a lot of people who've had paranormal experiences are horror fans.
I think it definitely heightened it, but at the same time, I have a dad who had me at a very young age, and I think he was about 20. So, and whenever my mom was working, he would show me some movies I shouldn't be watching. He took me to go see Nightmare on Elm Street. He took me to go see Nightmare on Elm Street 4 in the theaters, and I was 5.
Wow. That's fantastic.
So I kind of grew up with it, but I'm pretty sure everything I experienced only heightened it, and my taste in music, and maybe my little goth stage in my life too in high school.
It's an interesting correlation because I love metal music. I know Pete does. I had a black clothing phase as well, so there's like commonalities amongst people who believe and have these experiences. I notice the deeper I do this work, so that's fascinating.
Yeah,
awesome. Pete, any more questions on your end?
No, appreciate your time, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, Mike, that was great.
No problem. Oh yeah,
come on and get to hear about this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the bulk of the stories. I might have a couple sprinkled here and there that I can't think of, but those are my major ones.
Well, if you think of any more, let us know, and we can always bring you back on and have another conversation, or have you on with a couple other experiencers, and you can have a good chat about all of it. So that'd be great.
Of course.
Awesome. Well, all right, Mike, thanks for that. Pete, that wraps up another episode of Bit Dodgy, isn't it? How's that better?
It's a bit dodgy in it.
Whatever. We'll be back next week with an all new episode. Until then, I'm Jason Hewlett.
And I'm Peter Renn. Stay spooky.